In the fall of 1932, flyers began appearing around Macon County, Alabama, promising, quote, colored people special treatment for, quote, bad blood, free blood tests, free treatment by county health department and government doctors. The sign said, "You may feel well and still have bad blood. Come and bring all your family." Hundreds of black men, many of them poor, signed up. They were promised free meals, free physicals, and free burial insurance. What they were never told was that they would become part of the Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male, a secret experiment conducted by the U.S. Public Health Service to study the progression of the deadly venereal disease without treatment.
So today, America does remember the hundreds of men used in research without their knowledge and consent. We remember them and their family members, men who were poor and African American. Without resources and with few alternatives, they believed they had found hope when they were offered free medical care by the United States Public Health Service. They were betrayed.
Tuskegee wasn't the only unethical syphilis experiment. From 1946 to 1948, the United States led human experiments in Guatemala where nearly 700 men and women, prisoners, soldiers, mental health patients, were intentionally infected with syphilis. Hundreds more people were exposed to other sexually transmitted diseases as part of the study, without their knowledge or consent. In the early 80s, Bayer knowingly sold blood clotting agents infected with HIV to Asian and Latin America months after withdrawing them from Europe and the US.
Mike, welcome to the show. We appreciate you being on tonight.
Thanks for the invitation, Joe.
Okay, let's talk about the rat of the week. Why is Bayer Corporation the rat of the week?
Internal documents show that after this company positively, absolutely knew that they had a medication that was infected with the AIDS virus, they took the product off the market in the U.S. and then they dumped it in France, Europe, Asia, and Latin America. The medicine's called Factor 8. It was an injection medicine that was used for hemophiliacs, mostly children. Children had been born with an incurable disease.
Hold on, Mike. So hold on. So you're telling me that Bayer knew that this drug was infected with the AIDS virus. They yanked it from the market in America, and then they dumped it in markets overseas?
They had to figure out a way, Joe, to make a profit on a product that they could not sell in America. So they made a huge profit. They dropped the product in Japan, Spain, and France. By the way, Joe, government officials in France that allowed that to happen actually had to go to prison for it. In America, not one corporate executive for this company has been indicted or even criminally investigated by our Justice Department.
Why not? What, you're telling me that these people that dumped this AIDS-tainted blood in foreign countries, who killed children, have not been taken to task in the United States?
It's worse than that. The U.S. government allowed it to happen. The FDA allowed this to happen. And now the government is completely looking the other way. Thousands of innocent hemophiliacs have died from the AIDS virus. And not only they're dying, their family members are dying because they're becoming infected with the disease.
In May of 2010, the Rockefeller Foundation published a document titled Scenarios for the Future of Technology and International Development. The document lays out different sets of scenario planning, describing it as, quote, a process of creating narratives about the future based on factors likely to affect a particular set of challenges and opportunities. The first scenario lined out in this document is called lockstep. Merriam-Webster defines lockstep as a standard or method of procedure that is mindlessly adhered to or that minimalizes individuality. In lockstep, in perfect or rigid, often mindless conformity or unison. Lockstep goes on to describe a future pandemic, originating from wild geese, infecting nearly 20% of the global population, with a deadly effect on economies as well. It goes on to say, quote, even locally, normally bustling shops and office buildings sat empty for months, devoid of both employees and customers. Their solution to this future pandemic, in a nutshell, is a world of tighter top-down government control and more authoritarian leadership. On October 18th, 2019, the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, the World Economic Forum, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation hosted Event 201, a 3.5-hour pandemic tabletop exercise that simulated a series of dramatic, scenario-based discussions confronting dilemmas associated with a response to a hypothetical pandemic. Event 201 simulates an outbreak of a novel zoonotic coronavirus transmitted from bats, then to pigs, then to people. It eventually becomes, quote, effectively transmissible from person to person, leading to a, you guessed it, severe pandemic.
This when we first were studying Event 201, but this is what they played on the big screen at Event 201 on October 18th, 2019, just 6 weeks before the Wuhan you-know-what came out, before the planned organized partial shutdown of the U.S. economy was hatched in public. But watch what they played here. How would you know that they were going to shut down, that social media was going to start shutting down and censoring quote-unquote disinformation? Watch this. It's like they wrote the script for everything.
Today about the CAPS pandemic. Twitter and Facebook are reporting they've identified...
By the way, yesterday was the first official anniversary of Event 201 where they planned the world's demise.
And deleted a disturbing number of accounts dedicated to spreading disinformation about the outbreak. For more on this, we go to our correspondent, Catalina Parks.
Chen, these accounts were created by several state-sponsored groups.
Try to get out of your mind that this is horrible script reading and horrible acting, and try to just focus on what they're saying.
Groups intending to sow political discord. And some individuals are seemingly seeking to gain financial advantages. Care workers and minority populations has been increasing. A recent riot highlights the real danger in these posts. Countries are reacting in different ways as to how best to manage the overwhelming amounts of dis and misinformation circulating over the internet. In some cases, limited internet shutdowns are being implemented to quell panic.
Thank you, Catalina. For more on
is that a prophecy of things to come? Limited shutdowns of the internet? Really?
this, we are joined by experts on crisis communications and social media, Kevin McAleese and Sarah Lee.
To me, it is clear countries need to make strong efforts to manage both mis- and disinformation. We know social media companies are working around the clock to combat these disinformation campaigns.
Remember, truth is treason, the empire of lies, and truth is the new hate speech, and you can't go to war until you decimate the truth. Truth is the first casualty in any war, including the most important war of all, the war in your mind, the information war. So that's what we're seeing today. So what they're calling hate speech, what they're calling misinformation and disinformation is usually just people asking questions.
The task of identifying every bad actor is immense. And experts agree that new disinformation campaigns are being generated every day. This is a huge problem that's going to keep us from ending the pandemic and might even lead to the fall of governments, as we saw in the Arab Spring.
Yeah, we can't have that. We can't have the fall of governments, can we?
If the solution means controlling and reducing access to information, I think it's the right choice.
Sit back and relax, because for the next minute or two, I'm going to give you the shits. I'm going to give you the single highest institutional tracking system. That's why we're looking at the world population right now. Single highest institutional tracking system concerning Cerveza bug. That's the shits. Single highest institutional tracking system. What do I mean by that? If you take the current world population of 7.8 billion people, they say, and then you go over here, this is Worldometer. Anybody can look at this. Let me go over here. Show you what this is. This comes straight from worldometer.com. And you can get this through my website. I got a lot of cool fancy tools there that are all absolutely 100% free at highimpactflix.com. But I'm going to go over here to part of Worldometer where they have a Cerveza bug special. It's got the total cases of 24.2 million, deaths 827,008, the amount recovered. But what we're interested in is this number, a couple numbers right down. Let me get this down here. Let me get all this whittled down nice and neat for you, because we're going to look at 4 numbers down here that are very interesting that you won't hear spouted too much on MSNBC, CNN. At least they won't be highlighted. But check this out. In the United States, according to Worldometer here, and this is the shits, the single highest institutional tracking system, the USA has 331,298,704 people supposedly, with 183,184 cases. Down here, we have China with 1.4 billion people and only 4,634 cases. Okay, that's China. Only 4,634, and we in the United States have supposedly 183,184. So let's do a little bit. Let's do a little bit of single highest institutional tracking system, or shits math. U.S. deaths, 183,184 divided by 331.2 million people equals 0.00051% death rate. If you break that down and you turn it into a percentage, that's 50 thousandths of 1%. 50, think about it guys, 50 thousandths of 1% death rate in the United States. That's your single highest institutional tracking system, or shits. I'm going to give you the shits. I told you I would. Let's go back down here to China. There's China. 1.4 billion people in China with 4,634 deaths. Divide 4,634 divided by 1.4 billion, and guess what do you get? You get 0.00000. That's 5 zeros, 32. 0.0000032%, or 3 millionths of 1% death rate. But it's a pandemic. Now let's go to the world, okay? So if you take the world death rate, according to Worldometers, I'm not pulling these numbers out of my ass. I am giving you the shits, but I am not pulling numbers out of my ass. Deaths, 827,008 divided by 7.8 billion people. That's 0.00097%, or 900 thousandths of a percent death rate. But we have to shut everything down. The world is 900 thousandths of a percent death rate. China is 3 millionths of a percent death rate. And the US is 50 thousandths of a percent death rate. And these are padded numbers according to Deborah Birx, and according to at least Deborah Birx and Dr. Ezike from Illinois.
Of the definition of people dying of COVID. So the case definition is very simplistic. It means at the time of death, it was a COVID positive diagnosis. So that means that if you were in hospice and had already been given, a few weeks to live, and then you also were found to have COVID, that would be counted as a COVID death. It means that even if you died of a clear alternate cause, but you had COVID at the same time, it's still listed as a COVID death. So everyone who's listed as a COVID death doesn't mean that that was the cause of the death, but they had COVID at the time of death. I hope that's helpful.
As your trusted health authority, I'll share with you why you should be more scared than ever before. But first, there's been a new twist in the COVID crisis. We just published research on the CDC website that shows only 6% of COVID deaths that we've been reporting to you were caused by COVID alone. 94% of COVID deaths had an average of 2.6 comorbidities. That means of the 161,392 COVID deaths that we've been shoving in your face, only 9,210 were legitimate COVID deaths. So does that mean we've been deceiving you and inflating the COVID death count by 152,182 deaths? Absolutely not, because we genuinely don't believe in math. And does this new information that proves that COVID is far less deadly than we've been trying to get you to believe mean you shouldn't live with intense fear anymore? Absolutely not. As your trusted health authorities, we consider our original estimates of over 2 million COVID deaths in the US to be a far more accurate number than the 9,200 deaths that have actually happened. And of the 9,210 deaths, 90% of them were in people of advanced age, which means young people are at extreme risk because you never know when your age is going to advance by multiple decades all at once. People finding this published information and spreading it around on social media wasn't part of our pandemic because it puts people at risk of not being scared to death of this statistically not very deadly disease. Luckily, we started running smear campaigns on the sources that are highlighting this dangerous fake news that's based on facts. Look for terms like conspiracy theories and fringe theories that we use to make these new statistics irrelevant. And we're also having it censored on social media already for everyone's protection. And to help you further forget this new relevant information, we've also buried it on the CDC website. Good luck finding it. Only 6% of reported COVID deaths actually died from COVID? Now's a great time to discount people that speak of this new information with a well thought out, emotionally charged comment rebutting something they didn't say. Like, oh, so you're saying you don't even care about the people that did die of COVID? You're glad they're dead, you just want sick people to die? Well, because they said nothing to indicate that. Your emotionally fueled abstract assumption is obviously a more accurate expression of what they meant than what they expressed. Now, we plead with you not to use this new information as a rational basis to rethink the level of fear that you're living under, because rethinking your thinking could cause you to change your mind. And changing your mind is uncomfortable and a potential cause of COVID, because our science fiction is yet to prove otherwise. And new information is the new outdated information, so you'll want to stay with the times. So why should you be more scared than ever before? Because statistically speaking, your chances of not dying from COVID are 99.96%. And that means if you're in the 0.04% that does die from COVID, you have a 100% chance of dying. Take a look at the numbers. And luckily that means we're still justified in trying to ruin your lives to save your lives. In an effort to do so, please pay close attention to the COVID death count that will continue to run across your screen for you. Look, here it is! And so you can stay under your warm, wet blanket of fear, we'll neglect to adjust the death count for accuracy with respect to this new information. And we'll also continue to take away your rights for your protection. And just like how a woman abused by her husband might say, "He only hits me because he loves me," you can repeat, "They're only taking away my rights to protect me." And you'll continue to surrender your rights because you're scared. Now that we've confused any clarity you might have been feeling on the new COVID death count information, you can go back to sleep. Please stay tuned for more updates on what you should be thinking and feeling.
It's just one more way of reducing your liberty and reminding you that they can fuck with you anytime they want. As long as you put up with it. As long as you put up with it. Which means, of course, anytime they want. Because that's what Americans do now. They're always willing to trade away a little of their freedom in exchange for the feeling, the illusion of security. What we have now is a completely neurotic population obsessed with security and safety and crime and drugs and cleanliness and hygiene and germs. There's another thing. Germs. Where did this sudden fear of germs come from in this country? Have you noticed this? The media constantly running stories about all the latest infections, salmonella, E. coli, hantavirus, bird flu, and Americans they panic easily, so now everybody's running around scrubbing this and spraying that and overcooking their food and repeatedly washing their hands, trying to avoid all contact with germs. It's ridiculous, and it goes to ridiculous lengths. In prisons, before they give you a lethal injection, they swab your arm with alcohol. It's true. It's true. It's true. Well, they don't want you to get an infection. And you can see their point. Wouldn't want some guy to go to hell and be sick. It would take a lot of the sportsmanship out of the whole execution. Fear of germs, why these fucking pussies? You can't even get a decent hamburger anymore. They cook the shit out of everything now because everybody's afraid of food poisoning. Hey, where's your sense of adventure? Take a fucking chance, will you? You know how many people die in this country from food poisoning every year? 9,000. That's all. It's a minor risk. Take a fucking chance, bunch of goddamn pussies. Besides, what do you think you have an immune system for? It's for killing germs. But it needs practice. It needs germs to practice on. So listen. If you kill all the germs around you and live a completely sterile life, then when germs do come along, you're not going to be prepared. And never mind ordinary germs. What are you going to do when some super virus comes along that turns your vital organs into liquid shit? I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to get sick, you're going to die, and you're going to deserve it because you're fucking weak and you got a fucking weak immune system. Now, God damn it. Hey. All right. Let me tell you a true story about immunization, okay? When I was a little boy in New York City in the 1940s, we swam in the Hudson River, and it was filled with raw sewage, okay? We swam in raw sewage, you know, to cool off. And at that time, the big fear was polio. Thousands of kids died from polio every year. But you know something? In my neighborhood, no one ever got polio. No one, ever. You know why? Because we swam in raw sewage. It strengthened our immune systems. The polio never had a prayer. We were tempered in raw shit. So personally, I never take any special precautions against germs. I don't shy away from people who sneeze and cough. I don't wipe off the telephone. I don't cover the toilet seat. And if I drop food on the floor, I pick it up and eat it. I eat it. Yes, I do. Even if I'm at a sidewalk cafe in Calcutta, the poor section, on New Year's morning during a soccer riot. And you know something? In spite of all that so-called risky behavior, I never get infections. I don't get them. I don't get colds. I don't get flu. I don't get headaches. I don't get upset stomachs. And you know why? Because I got a good, strong immune system, and it gets a lot of practice. My immune system is equipped with the biological equivalent of fully automatic military assault rifles with night vision and laser scopes. And we have recently acquired phosphorus grenades, cluster bombs, and anti-personnel fragmentation mines. So, when my white blood cells are on patrol, reconnoitering my bloodstream, seeking out strangers and other undesirables, if they see any suspicious-looking germs of any kind, they don't fuck around. They whip out the weapons, they wax the motherfucker, and deposit the unlucky fellow directly into my colon. Into my colon. There's no nonsense. There's no Miranda warning. There's none of that 3 strikes and you're out shit. First defense, bam, into the colon you go.